And now we have a special treat for you today. We are going to see a presentation called Rebirth. It's a short play by Cheryl Fair. Our ensemble cast includes Natalie Breen, Linda Irvine, Lorelei Breen, Darren Braun, and Valerie Ziegler. Come on up.
Sure, I'm Natalie, and Unity of Fredericksburg is my home church.
I'm Linda Irvine, Unity in Frederick, Maryland.
I'm from here.
I'm Darren Braun, and I'm a prayer chaplain at Unity in Frederick.
I'm Valerie Ziegler, and I'm from Frederick also. So, what's this all about?
What's this?
I hear there's a parade.
With marching bands.
More like fancy bonnets and dressed up dogs.
Yes, that. What's it all about?
That's what I want to know.
I'm still not sure what it is.
Easter.
Oh, Easter.
Like with chocolate bunnies?
Chocolate eggs from a bunny with a basket.
That's odd.
Jelly beans, too.
But that's not what it is all about, is it?
Oh, well, there are old stories.
Don't remind me.
We're meant to remember.
What was the point?
Something to be learned.
Yes, something to be learned.
About how he died.
No, it's about how he lived.
It's about how he came back.
It's about us. We never end.
Maybe so, but I can't get past all the darkness.
Sure you can.
We all have darkness.
Wait, this has to do with me?
My darkness.
It's a crucible.
Wait, what?
That's a movie.
No, it's an old play.
No, listen. A crucible is turbulent process when different elements interact, leading to the creation of something new.
Sounds traumatic.
Like the old stories.
No, it's lovely.
I think I prefer the candy.
Oh, I've been there.
Like rebirth.
Rebirth. Like regeneration?
Renewal.
Rejuvenation.
Resurrection.
Yes, I've been there.
Rising from the ashes.
Choosing to begin again.
Scarred and wiser now.
Wiser and joyful now.
The promise to fulfill.
The potential to explore.
A work in progress.
It's a process.
It's a practice.
So, that's what it's all about.
What was it again?
Easter.
Oh, that.
Yes, that.
So we never end?
We choose.
We never end.
You never end.
I never end.
Even when it seems to end.
Spring always comes again.
Even when we forget.
We begin again.
Boy, that's all good.
Do we
still get candy?
We have new careers. I know, how fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now we will have our message from Reverend Sarah.
Happy Easter. That was awesome. I love theater. I miss theater, and I feel like I just got a taste of some theater. So thank you very much for that. So last week, if you were with us, it was all about choose your own adventure. It was Palm Sunday, and we talked about how Jesus came into Jerusalem from the East Gate. And there was a different option coming in from the West Gate, right? And we get to choose from which consciousness are we meeting our situation. And before we get to what today is all about, Easter, I want to talk about what happened between Jesus entering Jerusalem and, we all know the story, resurrection. This is all about the human condition, the human experience. It's taught to us as if it's a condition that has nothing to do with us. But it's all about the human condition and the human experience. So Jesus entered Jerusalem with this higher level of consciousness, right? And he was faced with opposition. He was faced with challenges. He went into the temple, which is supposed to have something to do with spirituality and God, right? It's also, there was not a separation between church and state. So it was also where the tax collectors counted their money. And he went in there and he was ticked off. And he wanted them to be like him. He wanted them to be better people. Have you ever had an experience where you wanted someone else to behave in a better or different way? Right, a little hand, right? We've all had that experience. Like, this situation would just be better if you got on board and did the right thing. And when we're faced with that situation where there's conflict and there's seemingly opposition, we have to make a choice, right? We have to decide, how are we going to respond? Are we going to stick with our convictions? Are we going to stand in our own truth? Are we going to be authentic and stand in integrity? Or are we going to say, you know what, I feel the mood of the room, and it's not going to go my way. So I'll just compromise myself, and I know it's not right, but I'll go along with the crowd because that feels safer. Have any of you had that experience? I have. There have been times when I've been afraid to stand in my own truth and stand in my own integrity because I was afraid of you judging me. Or I was afraid of being kicked out of my group, whatever the group is, my friend group, my family, whatever. So Jesus has this experience, right? And he decides he's going to take the higher consciousness, the higher path, and he sticks to his convictions. They actually try to trick him into admitting his blasphemy. And so they ask him all these questions, and they're trying to get him to admit to wrongdoing. And he doesn't. He's clever, and he gives vague answers that could be interpreted either way. And he continues on. And he has foreseen that the people close to him are going to betray him. And again, he is in a situation, in the predicament, where he has to decide, the people closest to me are going to betray me. What am I going to do? Am I going to stand in my convictions? Am I going to stand in my integrity? Or am I going to fold? And he is betrayed by those closest to him. Judas, his buddy, part of his posse, part of his crew. And remember, these people have been traveling around for years. Imagine how close they were. They traveled together, they lived together, they ate together, they did everything together. And Judas was like, I see where this is going and I could use some money. So I'm going to go sell out my friend. Have any of you ever done that? You don't have to raise your hand. It's hard to admit. Have you ever been the one to go against your friend, even though you knew it was not the right thing to do? We've all done that. It's a part of the human condition. And then his other friends, they're like, yeah, I don't know that guy. No, I don't know that guy. And people are like, hey, yeah, I thought I saw you guys together, right? No, it wasn't me. It's a guy that looks like me. That wasn't me. I don't know him. I'm not associated with him. Why would they do that? Well, it's clear, right? I mean, they were afraid. The whole group of people are turning on them, wanting to crucify them. That's how they dealt with people. They put them out in the public yard and strung them up. Now, we don't do that. We don't experience that today, but we do experience being exiled from our groups, right? We experience that. We experience being publicly shamed. I shared with you, whatever it was, that I was really reluctant and resistant to being recorded. And then COVID came and I was okay, I guess my resistance can't resist anymore. I guess I will participate in this reluctantly. And when I got honest with myself about what that resistance was really about, it's about, I don't want to feel the wrath of the masses attacking me. I want to stay with my like-minded people where we all know that the story of Jesus and the resurrection, it's to be interpreted metaphysically and how it applies to our own life. And I don't want to associate with the people who say that Jesus was this special guy who's different from you and different from me, and we can never be like him, and he died for your sins, and you have to accept him as your personal savior. Because what I'm saying to those people is blasphemy. He doesn't need to be your personal savior. He needs to be your personal example. So now that I've admitted that publicly, am I going to get all the wrath of all those people? It's okay. Because the story of today tells me that no matter what happens, when I stand in my truth, when I stand in integrity with what I know, no matter how bad it gets, I'm the one who comes out on top. I'm the one that comes out better for it. This whole story happens to us over and over and over again in our lives. This whole story is one of discovering who and what we are and then having the courage to stand in it. And we will receive opposition, we will receive challenges, we will experience difficulties. And we must have the courage to stand in it anyway. And when we do, we experience resurrection. So Jesus is doing his thing. He's sticking to it. He's standing in his integrity. He's been betrayed. I'm sure he felt like the world was against him. And even he doubted. You know, there's a couple times in there he's like, hey, you know, God, if by any chance I don't have to drink from this cup, meaning I don't have to experience this. If by any chance I'd be cool with not going through with this. How many times have we done that in our lives? We're faced with a challenge. And so this is one of the things that I catch myself doing. I'm like, okay, well, if I really don't want to do that, really don't want to do that, I'm going to look for a sign that says I don't have to do that. And I can make anything into a sign to get me out of my fear zone. So that's what he was doing. This is all part of the human experience, the human condition. Even Jesus experienced it. He's like, yeah, like, I mean, I'd be okay with not experiencing this horrible thing. But he is scared and he takes a deep breath and he steps into the experience anyway. And then he is convicted of his crimes of blasphemy. He's convicted. He's strung up on a cross. He is mocked. They tried to humiliate him. They're like, ooh, I'm the Son of God. Look at me, King of Kings. Ha, ha, ha. And I would like to say that we do not experience that as grown-ups. But people have tried to mock me. People have tried to humiliate me. I bet you've experienced that too. As human beings, we behave poorly to one another. It's just part of our current human condition. So that happens. They string him up on a cross. He dies. They put him in a tomb. And what's the tomb represent? The tomb is really that time when we're experiencing the worst of the worst of the worst. And we take a breath and we get quiet. And we remember what's important. We remember who and what we are at our core. And if we stick to our principles, if we stay in integrity, if we stay true to ourselves, because my integrity is not the same as your integrity. Each one of us is a unique expression of the divine, and each one of us today, here and now, are being called to live into the best version of ourselves that we can be. It is time for a new world paradigm. One where even though we are afraid of the consequences of standing firm in love and compassion, even though we're afraid, we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to do it anyway. And the difference between, where we are now today and where Jesus was then is, one, we're not going to get strung up on a literal cross, right? That we don't do that in our society anymore. So that's not going to happen. And the entire world is not going to turn against us, because we can always find someone who will stand with us. We can always find someone who we can connect with and say, I'm afraid. And that person will look at us and say, I know. Let's take a deep breath together. and I'll walk beside you. That's what we're being called. That's what the Easter story is all about. It's individual and it's collective. On the individual level, everything I've talked about, you're having a difficulty, you feel as if the world is against you, you feel as if the world is turning against you. And as individuals, we must muster up the courage to stand in our truth. And collectively, we are being called to stand up for each other. For that is what Jesus was doing, because he had it for himself. He had it figured out. And what he was doing is he went into the temple and he said, look, you elite, you're hypocrites. You say that that you're all about God and all of this, but look at how you're acting and look at how you're treating people. You're up here counting your money and there are people over here starving. So not only is Jesus our example for how we can approach the challenges in our life as individuals, it was showing us that we need to stand up for each other. We need to recognize that because you're different than me doesn't mean you don't get to love the way you want to love. Because you're different from me doesn't mean you shouldn't get all the opportunities that I get. Because you're different than me, fill in the blank. We have this long laundry list of ways that we are different from one another and why we should stay separated. And the new world paradigm that we are all being called to is to recognize that we have more in common than we have differences. You don't have to like everything the other person likes. What a horribly boring world it would be. If everyone were like me, that would not be a good world. Not everybody is going to be like you, and that's a good thing. I'm a vegetarian. Should all the world be like me and be a vegetarian? Rock on, live your best life, go have a hamburger. Right? Now, if you come to me and you say, hey, why are you a vegetarian? I'm interested in knowing. I'll tell you. But I'm not here to make you like me. Over the years, I have faced many struggles and many challenges. I've shared with you that I used to be a really not nice person. If I were back in Jesus' time, with my old self, I would be, probably flipped over with the table. Jesus would have called me a hypocrite. Jesus would have told me all the things that I was doing wrong. And over the years, as I have faced the adversity and challenges in my life, more and more and more, I've learned who and what I really am, and I've been willing more and more and more to stand in the truth of that. So don't So it's not about being like each other, but we can emulate how we show up in the world. And that's what, don't be exactly like Jesus, but live your internal life the way he did. Because if we tried to be exactly like him, so we didn't have differences, how many of you are willing to go, into some of our leaders' offices and flip over the tables and call them hypocrites? I'm not willing to do that because I don't want to go to jail. And that wouldn't be an integrity for me because I value order. I have a weird relationship with rules. I want to simultaneously follow them and break them. I never considered myself an activist. I usually don't go march and carry picket signs and yell chants in big crowds, mainly because I don't like big crowds, so that's not for me. But I'll do the behind the scenes work. I live in Maryland, I'll go to Annapolis and, try to influence my elected officials to pass laws that I think are right. I'll do that. But other people, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not driving all the way to Annapolis. I'm going to get with my friends. We're going to make some really cool signs and we're going to go, march downtown. Okay. Your job as a human being in this time is to really figure out what is your integrity. How many times have you been having an experience with someone, either, someone close to you, whether it's a family member or someone you work with, maybe it's your boss? How many of you have had a situation where you're like, oh, this is so wrong. I'm not going to say anything though. Geez. And it's true. We live in a time that is very, very challenging, and we are constantly under the stimuli from over here, over here, over here, over here. So yeah, we have to pick our battles, right? We have to pick our battles. I don't need to have a conversation with every crazy person on social media. But I am willing to spend my time with people that I am meeting in real life. I am willing to take a deep breath and say the thing I'm afraid to say. And more importantly, I am willing to experience the discomfort that comes with that. And that is what we are being called. Speak up for what you believe in. Stand up, not only for yourself, but for others. The resurrection story is not really about Jesus. It's about you. It's about your challenges. And the promise, the rainbow, the promise is that we will experience resurrection. We will experience new consciousness. Those of us who are who've been alive for a few decades, those of us who've had some life experiences know, oh my gosh, that was such a hard time in my life, but gosh, I learned so much. A friend of mine just said to me, oh, I learned so much in my first marriage. I learned even more in my second. She didn't know how to be in relationship in a healthy way. So she had to have two practices. And this is what it's all about. It's about having faith, not that some God out there is going to come and say, everything's okay. You're not going to experience adversity in your life. That's not what the resurrection is about. The resurrection is about inside here, inside you, inside here is God. And when we live from that place in us, which is divine, when we live from that place, it doesn't matter how bad things get. It doesn't matter how hard things get. We are resurrected better for it. And the degree to which our resurrection is experienced is directly proportion to how willing we are to stand in our truth, how willing we are to be authentic, how willing we are to live from that place of divinity. So I invite you to think about the challenging time. We all have, it doesn't matter. I bet you all have something challenging in your life right now. And it can be super big, or it can be something small. If it's causing you angst, if it's causing you discomfort, then it's applicable. Bring to mind the thing in your life. The thing in your life that is challenging, that is scary, that you know you are being called to a new and higher paradigm. What in your life is your Easter story? And we're going to bring that to meditation. So that was a lot of heady stuff, and we're just going to set that aside for a while. We're just going to set that aside. We can pick up the heady stuff later. I invite you to take 3 deep breaths, and if you're here with me and have your mask on, I invite you to give me an audible exhale. Really allow yourself to become present in this now moment. Again. One more. Let's focus on our heart space. Acknowledge and embrace that indwelling Christ presence. Just acknowledge it. Here today, lay claim to it. Embrace it. And focused from this part of you. Allow this part of you to fill your body. to fill your mind, to fill your consciousness. Imagine, sense, and feel that this Christ presence has but one desire, and that is to be expressed by you. Bring to mind your life situation. Ask that part of yourself that is divine to come forth. How might I show up in my Christ nature? How might I show up in love and compassion and oneness? How might I be the living Christ? Let's hold that question for a few moments in silence. How might I show up in the highest way I am able? How might I live my life in a way that is like the way Jesus lived his life? How might I find the courage to stand in my own truth? This was a very short time to sit with those questions. And I invite you on your own time to sit quietly with an open heart and an open mind, inviting the wisdom of that still small voice within. to speak to you and inform you on how you can show up in the world as the best version of yourself, as the sacred being that you are. And so it is. Amen.